care.
That's what we're getting.
Yes.
That's become the norm, is I don't care. They'll excuse it away as, well, everyone's a journalist these days because everyone got a blog or something like that. But a laminated press pass, and you're very familiar with when you're doing local specials. They know they're local reporters for the most part, and photographers. I mean, you've seen these people before. So to have collective amnesia at such a crucial time seems to be a joke.
Yes, they do, don't they? But you know something, I think it's on us to create an authorized press pass, something that we can't go into FedEx office and create.
Like what we had for the state house. Like if you cover your local state house, or if you cover the Hill, they have their own pass. Like that pass normally would give me a green light because it has like all these intrinsic things on it. Like it's got the iridescent watermark situation. It's heavy. It has weight of it just looks more official than the things I made for my high school students when I made them press passes.
Okay.
So it's just that they have decided to disregard journal period. If you tell me to stay on a corner, or this is the press area, and keep in mind the press area cannot be so far away from the action that you're impeding my coverage. If I'm staying in that area, then you can't come with the aggression and throwing stuff at us. That's totally out of line.
I think part of it too is I'm not really familiar with police departments, but they don't have like the public information person doesn't sit with them and usually doesn't give training, because the public information officer is usually with the mayor or deputy mayor, and I think they could benefit from understanding the media's role and what they can and can't cover.
Yeah,
also too,
for lawsuits.
Yeah, exactly. Also too, from a PR point of view, I mean, it's like, does anybody? I'm going to ask a question. I know the answer, but basically, no one ever sat down and told these people that that one picture of you pushing over an 75-year-old man is going to be taken and shared 1 million times, and it's not going to do you any good to your image. That's the thing.
I think they know that. They just don't care. Because I know that you get some type of training that talks about, reputation management, especially. And I think there's just people that, they know the camera is on them. And they know the power of social media. Social media just amplifies what you are already doing. But we also saw the response from the police department. They did that symbolic resigning. So
from that task force, they're still
from that task force. Yeah, they're still working from that specific task force.
It's one of those things that there's not enough officer-friendly videos to clean this up. So maybe don't do it. I recently, I kind of like teeter into the media-related realm a lot. So I was talking to a police force that's using drones for everything from observation to crime solving or whatever. And I was like, y'all have a bad reputation. I'm not sure it's going to help you right now.
All right, y'all, we're getting close to the 1 minute to the start time, but I love this dialogue, so continue.
Also, too, that I think the reason why a lot of these guys do this is because they know that if they get sued, the money's not coming out of their paycheck. That money gets taken care of by the insurance companies. So it's like, they're literally they're judgment free.
Well, they better know their FOP very well, because
that's why you sue the insurance company.
Yeah. Real talk, the fraternal order police doesn't protect everybody. Because that guy up in the Minneapolis area, the one cop that managed to get taken down for killing a civilian was a black dude, like Somali immigrant type of guy. Yeah. Everybody else, we having a hard time figuring this stuff out with videos,
Wow. One thing that come out of this is now our John, our white brothers are seeing the impact, and they're telling the story. Now they're seeing what it's like.
Oh.
Well, one thing about them, one thing about whites, they may not be that hard to work with, but they're sure out there willing to gas with the police right now.
But they're telling the story. They haven't listened to us over these 30, 40, 50 years, but they're listening like live on CNN. I got shot. And these bullets are not the circular vanilla wafers. These are torpedoes. You know, some of these are projectiles.
Well, in Dallas, they call them sponge bullets rather than rubber bullets.
Sponge
implication
bullets.
Is it's like a sponge hitting you, but that's not what it is. It's just
I saw one of those bullets. I saw one of those bullets embedded in some young lady's head. So they're definitely sponges, you know.
Yeah, we took out somebody's eye here, but Larry, I take it you didn't take math in class, because I heard you said 30, 40 years. I beg to differ. I won't say 419.
Well, I can only speak from my age, but you know, about my time. But yeah, when you got off the boat in 1619, Terry, I appreciate you being there with us.
Yeah, I got the gray hair to prove it, brother. All righty then, you guys. We're going to get started here, and I want those of you who are not the speakers to mute and raise your hands. Also, in the chat room, I don't think we're going to have this issue, but in the chat room, when you put your question in, we're going to answer them while we're online, but also put your email address in there anyway. Everyone knows that if you push the 3 dots that's down at the bottom near the file word on chat, it downloads the chat to you, to your computer. That way you'll have the notes yourself. But I will always download them as well. And so in case we don't get to anything. And so I'm going to, hopefully this works, Tony. Are you there, Tony? Yeah, he popped out. Oh yeah, Tony, you're wearing the shirt. Look at that shirt. Go ahead, stand up and show him the shirt. Give him the shirt, yeah. All of you speakers get one today. Social distancing does not mean social disengagement. All right, so, we got people coming in. So we're gonna show a little introduction so we can say where we are. Hi, Maria. And thank you guys for joining this 8th happy hour that we have. You see my drinks are ready. I'm set. And we are going to get this discussion going. Everybody knows we're in a pivotal time. So this is going to be awesome. So don't forget to put your questions in the chat. And Tony's also going to put the link to the, later on, he's going to put the link to the LinkedIn page. I want you guys to sign up. Most of you are in there now. So Tony, can you go ahead and see if that screen will work, and we can go ahead and start off with a little overview, and then we'll get started, and I'll start my questions. Sounds good, Tony. Are you talking? Jasmine, how are you?
Doing good. Happy to be here.
I just saw your video. Beautiful job. All right, so I am lucky enough to have received some of the questions that we're going to ask our speakers, and we're going to start with this presentation. So is it working, Tony, or do we need to? You're on mute, Tony. I don't have you muted. Let's see here. Okay, guys, we'll get started as soon as we work out this kink. All right, Tony, you're going to share the screen. Hi, Maria. We're building up an audience here. This is great.
Hi, Terry.
Good
hey,
to see
everybody.
You. All right, Tony, you're on mute, so there's not a way we can hear whatever you're saying. Okay, no problem. We're going to move to the next level. Let me go ahead and see if I can download your presentation, Tony.
Now, Terry?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, I just had to make an adjustment. I'm getting the error message that host disabled participant screen sharing.
We just fixed that, so I don't know how that's working. So
yeah, I think that's an adjustment you have to make each meeting.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it's not something that you got to do it at each meeting.
Okay, well, no problem. I'll just download the presentation here. I need a single link to the video, if you can.
Yeah, I sent it to you in email. So I sent it to you about 5 or 6 minutes ago.
Is it embedded in the PowerPoint or is it just a link?
It is embedded in the PowerPoint, slide 1.
Okay. I don't know if it's going to play from there, but we'll try it. Let's do that. Okay, let's see if I can share my screen.
If that doesn't work, I'm sorry, if that doesn't work, you can go to your email. The last email you got from me had the link to the video, YouTube video.
Okay, you might want to put it in the chat, sir. Let's get us started. Sorry, guys, for the technical stuff. We tried to do a more global reach, and it just didn't come out the way it should. All right, I'm going to share my screen for you for a second. I'm not going to go widescreen. I'm just going to go down the list so you can see how we got where we are today. So let me share that screen with you right quick, and everybody just I can see it in the chat, so I'll know that you can see it. Can you see that screen?
We see it. I see it.
Okay, so guys, this is where we headed. We started out with working on how media professionals and people of color maneuver and how we use COVID-19. How do we use virtual in the COVID-19 pandemic? Then we went into working with how we take corporations and align our messages to our community causes in our community. Cedric Brown talked about the racism project that he had with Ben and Jerry's. Then we thought that it'd be important that we learn how to self-care. And we had a great session on things that we do to self-care, how we can unplug and plug back in. And then we went to talk with Sean and Kayla about where's the money? What are we going to do about the money in this pandemic? And then we talked with Coca-Cola and the president, Lynn Norman, who was with the Carol Williams Agency. And we talked about how we can get corporate relationships realigning themselves to our revenue sources, and also how we are crisis management experts. And the crisis is our wheelhouse and how we handle that. And then we talked with Ahmad Gori, because a lot of us didn't realize that we have money that is due us. And that was a way to show that our practitioners could go after their money. Then we had Jasmine Romaine to talk to us about how to create a virtual conference, how to have you take your gala and turn it into a conference. And she gave us a template for that and a lot of sources. And so today we're dealing with the Black Male Media. So it's Black Male Media Day. Hopefully I can share this screen with you. Is that showing up, people? Can y'all see that screen? All right, type in there if you can see the screen, the video.
I see a screen.
Okay, y'all see it? Can you hear it?
No,
I guess that's not working either.
Yeah. Do you have Terry? Do you have the slide with just the video, the single slide that I sent you?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, try that.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and just put it in the.
Yeah, I put the link already in the chat.
Yeah, I'm going to put the link in the chat so you guys can go ahead and everyone can access that link and talk about it. But it's a powerful video on the industry and how we got started.
There it is. Yep, got it.
So if you haven't seen that, it's a very powerful video and it is an amazing process. So let's get started here. We got our esteemed panelists on board here. And what I want to do right now is to start with my opening statement. Okay, that's me now. Hold on, let me go back to this video and stop it. I can hear myself talking. There we go. Sorry about that, people. We're going. Opening statement. In case no one has told you today, I want to know that Black men matter. Your voice matters, your existence matters, your life matters. The current climate is nothing more than the unmasking of tensions that have been simmering for hundreds of years. We can no longer hide, no longer turn a blind eye. We can no longer live in a silent agreement either. And as we're professionals in the industry, process our emotions, We got to focus on how we look at our lives, and all of us who collectively share a disproportionately burden of hatred and the harsh realities of that society. Unfortunately, there are forces in the world who believe black men are inferior, and that we are criminal, that our very essence is violent. And if there were a real presence and of us, that we are basically threatening. But we do know the truth. So welcome to our Happy Hour series focusing on black male, the media, and the impact that we have as people. And I going to introduce my speakers as I go throughout the process with a question, so that we will, and Tony's going to load their bios in the chat so you can find out everything they do and how to get in touch with them. And therefore we'll make it go fast so we can utilize this hour in the best possible way. So that being said, you saw the Black Lives Matter video. So I'm going to start. My first question is going directly to my best friend over there, Larry Lundy. Larry, the sports industry has always been at the forefront of breaking barriers. But with the Drew Brees statement, the Goodell statement, how do you see the sports industry's role in today's landscape, and where is that influence going to create permanent change?
Well, I think we can't allow the sports industry or athletes to be all that's going to be, even though I work in sports every day. It's just that we didn't create this situation where athletes are our role models. Your parents, your family should be your role models. But fortunately, unfortunately, that's what got the attention. You know, Jackie Robinson, until he broke the color barrier in corporate America, we weren't having those opportunities. Until Magic Johnson got AIDS, it didn't go mainstream. And the same thing's happening right now. The NFL and Roger Goodell have never apologized to players, ever. So to have that, millionaires dictating to billionaires that this is a problem, and they acknowledge it without still mentioning our brother Kaepernick, it may be an issue, but we have to really inform our kids, our teachers, and empower everybody and across the board. It's just not going to be sports, but I would say that we need to arm our athletes, and it looks like they did. Even though it was a rogue employee, Brian Minter, who just happened to be one of our Caucasian brothers, who went to the forefront and decided that he needed to help the brothers tell their message. And that's how it got done. That was not an NFL approved. That was something he did on his own. And now that story is coming out as well.
So you saw the video, Black Lives Matter. I know you've seen that, and the link is there. My strongest question to you is, what is going to be crucial for us to do? Because the industry, my colleagues, my reporters, my PR people, and my everyday folk are saying this is going to blow over, and we're going to be right back where we started for. We're going to be back at Emmett Till 101. What can be done?
I disagree for the fact of back when Emmett Till was just us protesting. Now it's not only your neighbors from in Dallas, whether it be Plano or in Chicago, Naperville. You're talking about Greece, New Zealand, you know, London. So this has gone national and international, and now is the time. In corporate America, I've never seen so many companies make statements and without sight unseen how many checks they're writing. What we have to do is galvanize this time and make sure it's going to the right places, and then take control of the narrative ourselves and make sure that we're doing the actions versus just statements, and so it doesn't blow over. And I think some of those things are happening right now. This conversation is one of those.
I appreciate that, Larry. One roundup question for you. A lot of this pandemic that we're having is racial and health-wise, but I think it's highlighted our economic disparities. What are some of the line item investments you think should occur in the sports industry?
Well, I don't think it's sports industry per se. In general, it comes from fans all the way down. I think the investment is just like what happens in the newsroom. Ownership, we need owners, we need GMs, coaches, and we have players. We have one on this call today, Bethel Johnson, who played in the league, and we need our education for our athletes. As president of our Black sports professionals, 3% of our executives are African American, but we have 70% on the field. So how do we teach our young kids, especially males, who believe 75% of them believe they're going to be LeBron, Dak, or Zach, when the actuality 1/10 of 1% are ever going to play in the NFL? Or so really communicating at a young age all the way up through the system about what we need, and having some of our successful entrepreneurs have an ownership stake in what we're doing.
All right, sir. I appreciate that. Now, It's my understanding we as practitioners have to respond to all kinds of things. But what I see mostly in the news is that everybody wants to defund the police. Everybody wants to blame law enforcement. And they're saying that our police force is a combatant, not a guardian. And so I'm going to switch it over to John. And I have a question for you, John. The protest and unrest after George Floyd's killing by police has been nationwide. Yeah, but most police departments operate in a local setting. In what ways has local policing become a national crisis? And how would that guide our response to all these marches and the movement and what's happening right now?
Well, I would say that the police brutality and unaccountable police use of deadly force is a national crisis in 3 or 4 basic ways. The first is the scale of it. About 1,000 people a year are killed by the police. Through the killing of Breonna Taylor this year, there have been almost 400 police killings. And the names of those people that are being killed are not known by anybody but their loved ones. Half the time they get one story on the local news and that's it. So the scale is high. We didn't have a good national count until 2015, but starting in 2015, the Washington Post has counted 1,000 a year. So that's 5,400 people in 5 years and 5 months, and that's a big number for a national crisis. The second thing is that every police department in this country has an officer, Derek Chauvin, on it tonight. And I know the city of Dallas probably has hundreds of them. And if you had asked the police chief in Minneapolis the day before Officer Chauvin killed George Floyd, what he was doing to stop, keep his department on the up and up, doing community policing and stuff, he would have told you, he would have been glad and self-congratulatory. He would have said, we got a long way to go, but we're doing our implicit bias training. We're doing community policing. We're increasing transparency, and never knowing really that an officer like Chauvin is deeply embedded in the police department, never knowing what was getting ready to hit his city. So it's national in that way. And then the third way that it's national is that it involves a fundamental denial of human rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it has an executioner for crimes like holding a screwdriver and not dropping it fast enough, or no crime at all, like just sitting in your apartment eating some ice cream. And we don't usually think of a local police department or the Dallas City Council as being the ultimate protector of our human rights. The ultimate protector of our human rights is the US Constitution. So we have a national crisis, but we have so far not had a national response. So as the protests move forward, we need to focus on the national government, on the Congress, to give us, say, a national standard for the use of deadly force, which we do not have. So in those ways, it's a national crisis.
Well, I have a question for you, sir. And a lot of people are talking about this restructuring and going back and making sure that police officers are prosecuted. They're also talking about how difficult it is, and I forgot the term, immunity
qualified immunity.
Qualified immunity police officers fall under. And you and I have worked very hard in the community. And by the way, everybody, Tony's going to post up the bios of everybody as I bring them on, so you can see the skill set that these people have in the chat. So, but applied immunity. But you and I work a lot in the community when it comes to policing. You and I have talked about it, and you shared a post on your page that all the officers who killed people in Dallas, at least a number of individuals, they're still police officers. So how is this reform, these suggestions that you have, how's that going to help the ones that are existing there? Or should we go back that far?
Well, we need to, I try to excavate the history of police brutality in Dallas because it's such an unknown story. But we need to realize that of those 1,000 killings a year, there's less than 7 prosecutions on average over the past 15, 20 years. And in the few that do get prosecuted, even fewer get convicted. So you'll hear about Botham Jean's assailant, Amber Geiger, was convicted. We got a good conviction on the Jordan Edwards killing of Officer Roy Oliver. And you'll hear about occasionally an officer getting convicted of something. It's usually less than murder, but they do get convicted. But the number of officers that actually get convicted is not even significant statistically, given the day-to-day loss of life at the hands of the police. The qualified immunity is one thing, but we have a case where even in Amber Geiger's case, the Dallas Police Department trains her, keeps her on patrol all this time, arms her, sends her out into the community, and then when she does this, they claimed, well, she didn't follow our policies, so you can't sue us. And don't you know that the city of Dallas was released from liability in the death of Botham Jean, the city? You know, and so officers can do almost anything to you, even kill you. And 993 times out of 1,000, not one thing will happen to that officer. And so the unaccountability is just pervasive. My friend who's also with Mothers Against Police Brutality, Sarah Mokuria, she always says, think of 3 people that you love. That's how many people the police killed in America today, on average.
That's some awesome stuff, sir. And I hope that you guys are letting this stuff resonate. We have a lot to cover, and we're going to keep it going. I want to bring in my 2 a.m. email buddy, Stephen Wright. Stephen, as someone who works in the newsroom, what do you suggest is the best way to keep the narrative, control the narrative, keep the news media interested in our stories once these protests have gone home and once it died down?
I think we just need to, we need the leaders in the newsroom and the reporters in the newsroom and the photographers and people in front of the camera, behind the camera, just to keep this going. You know, so many times we start, a police shooting happens and we start the protest and all that, and then it kind of dies down on the media cycle. So I think it's very important that those that are involved in the process let people know that we need to continue on with the coverage. We need to go in deeper. You know, we have the protest now, but what's next? And that's what we're trying to focus on with the community too. And it's also the viewers. If you see something wrong, say something. You know, I don't like the term, the media, the blanket. I mean, the media is a bunch of outlets. So if you have an issue with one of your favorite local stations, hopefully if it's in Dallas, Texas, it's NBC 5 Telemundo 39, call somebody, call up, email, say something, say, hey, what about this? Give us your story ideas, because we don't know everything. It's going to be a collective effort between the managers, the reporters, everybody involved in the community, and our viewers.
I have a question for you, sir.
Yes,
You and I had a discussion a couple of weeks ago, almost 4 weeks ago, when we said that there's no other story than COVID-19. Nothing else will be preempted. That's changed. Why and how?
You know, it's just, you never know. I mean, 2020 has been a crazy year, and it's kind of like COVID-19 right now is like at a halftime, but it's still out there. It's still out there. We spend a majority of our time keeping people safe. But this George Floyd death and the way that it happened, with the power of social media and all that, it had to get out there and be a top story, and it's world changing. Hopefully this time we can work for some change, but it was like the tipping point. Everybody's seen it right there. You know, you're coming off of COVID-19 where a lot of people are at home, consuming more media, and just the eyeballs that were on that, and just that despicable video. You know, the media had to tell that. I mean, we have to tell that story. It's big.
You're right. You've got a 9-minute, 8-minute, 45-second murder.
46 seconds, yes.
Yeah. Question, please share with us, and we didn't include in your bio, so tell us about Ben.
Ben, at NBC Universal, we have an employee resource group. One of them that I have one of them that I lead along with another colleague, Panisha Barnes, is the Black Employee Network. And that is where we get involved with issues. We do mentoring, counseling, we do educating, and we have a bunch of ERGs. But we're very involved and very much on the forefront of educating our employees about racial discrimination and diversity and inclusion. But it's just a list of, the Black Employee Network is one of several networks that we have, employee resource groups at NBC Universal.
What kind of conversations are you having with your counterparts who are white? Are they asking you to enlighten them to what you feel? What's going on with those conversations, and how should they be handled?
We're having serious conversations. We had we dedicated our last managers meeting last Wednesday specifically to this topic. And, you know, I just gave them my point of view, you know, about the talk with my sons and how that goes and what I live like day to day as the only Black male manager in that building and what our other Black colleagues are feeling like. And I was just telling them that they need to reach out. They need to check on these folks because we have Black journalists out there covering these protests and they're saying they're all right. They're not all right. I'm not all right. And so what we put in place is we have a town hall meeting coming up this week, and I have the managers and the senior managers up to the general manager, and I've invited them on the call, and it's sponsored with our Black employee members, and we're telling people to speak up. Nothing you say is going to get you fired. Speak up, tell the management team about how you feel, what you're going through, so we can give you the resources. And we're also telling our Black employee network that it's our job to educate. It's our time to educate that our colleagues, even though we feel that some of them should already know about Black history and diversity and racism and all that, but it's our job to have those tough conversations with them and for them to just feel comfortable with coming up to us, asking a question. If they have a question about race, I'll tell them I'd rather they ask me than to go out and make a dumb statement like Drew Brees did.
Oh, wow. You nailed that one. As Black men in the media, Stephen, we're even on the PR side, the media related side, as community leaders, some of the leaders you see here, how are we going to navigate in this new normal? What are some of our best practices for sustainability? I don't know how we're going to keep this wave where it is, but what are our best practices?
I think we need to, there's a huge opportunity ahead for us. And I think we need to take advantage of that opportunity with leadership skills, with keeping the conversation going, with keeping each other uplifted, with cutting out the negativity. You know, so much time is dealt with egos and attitudes and all that. We need to squash all that and get together and have our line on the finish line with the main goal is just to educate everybody. It's our job. And I think we are well prepared for it.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to roll it over to Kevin, and we're going to, in about 10 more minutes, we're going to go around the robin, but we're going to hear from our other professionals on the line who want to ask questions. Make sure you put your questions in the chat. When you put your question in the chat, make sure you put your email address in case we don't get to it, it'll be answered. I'm going to move this over to Kevin Odum. Kevin is an education specialist, an entrepreneur, media personality, and Kevin, what measures are in place to put in place for police applicant screening? I mean, in lieu of the lack of a national database for unfit duty officers, what do we do?
You know, it's frightening when you hear statements that this can't be done, and it's already in place for sex offenders. It's already in place for other industries, and so this is what's needed in order to focus on unfit officers. What we're finding is that they're leaving one municipality and they're fired or released, and they'll go to another one, and they're accepted with open arms, and they continue to the brutal path of police bullying. And so I think that this database has to be put in place. This is something that we have to, you know, I know you were asking Stephen about how do we keep this in front of the media. I think we've got to keep our demands in front of the media. We've got to continue to speak about the things that we need in order to control this policing challenge that we have. You know, it's just ridiculous that we don't have some type of systemic database in place that we can not only track these individuals as they are walked out of different municipalities, but watch them as they go through other application processes and flag them and other, you know, so that others will know about it. It just doesn't make sense right now. I think we're just too calm in this, and we allow them to kind of move almost as a shadow in the system. And I think we just have to keep that top of mind. So
further statement on the question: are you telling us that a database needs to be done? Is that going to be federal, state? Is it going to be owned by our community? Will it be a cultural thing? Should a nonprofit have it? Where is this database going to exist, and how will we utilize it?
You know, I think if you piggyback off of the sex offenders database, that's a national database. I'm not sure who owns the administrative piece of it, but if that has to be something that we do externally as a nonprofit or as an individual organization, maybe that's something that we take upon our shoulders, but we don't have anything that will federally mandate that information being funneled over to us when officers are let go for whatever reason. So without some federal and national guardrails put in place, you know, it's just great conversation. But I think that it can start at a local municipality and then move forward, you know, and then we can, if they need a beta test, you know, we can do it here. We can do wherever we need to do it, but it has to begin. It's not in place at all now.
Thank you, sir. Dr. David Williams at Harvard University, who used to be the United States Public Health Commissioner, said that the disparities to African Americans, both economic and health, but it's not based on our diet the way the news wanted to do it and the way the Surgeon General talks about it, but it's basically based on racism and stress. Stress indicates that he said it was three things. It's based on racial stress. It's based on our wealth development, our failure to be equal to the others, income development issues. And it's also based on the silence that we carried through what racism does to us, which elevates everything else, and our access to a free market for health, for food. So I'm going to roll this question over to two people I asked to be on this line, Christopher Fisher and Bethel Johnson. My question to you now is, how is this big economic wealth gap going to work for us, and what can we do to address it? Christopher.
So when it comes to the wealth gap that we have in America, one of the biggest things that we have to understand is just how wide this gap really is. I think that we are so far behind. Being in the investment space, Bethel, myself, and a couple of other partners, we're full-time investors, and we actively get to see how wide the gap is when we're looking to invest into Black-owned businesses versus businesses that are owned by our white counterparts. And where the game is being played right now is at a level to where most of us do not even conceive to even think that we can play in that game. And so what I mean by that, by numbers, is we might see an investment, a pitch or pro forma that comes to us by a Black-owned company that might be looking to raise money that's around, you know, north of $1 million to $2 million, thinking that that's a lot of money to be raised. Whereas, you know, we're sitting in meetings for, you know, large developments that are 400 million plus, you know. And so the game where it's being played at, we're nowhere near close to playing in the game. So I see a lot of times where we see somebody that has successfully did $1 million raise for their business, and we're going nuts and bananas for it. Whereas to me, what I'm seeing, I'm like, that's pennies compared to what's going on out there. And so that becomes the biggest issue, is that we're not playing at the same level. If the dream is just to be having a six-figure job, then that in itself is a problem. So, you know, we got to be able to play the game at a much bigger level and understand where the game is at. Not only that, but we also got to understand the language, because part of getting in that game is understanding the language that's being spoken. And so if you don't understand the language, you can't close that gap. And that's the biggest part of it.
Okay, I appreciate that. Bethel, I'm going to bring you in part of this conversation that Chris has started with me. I'm going to go with this here statement I got from one of my mentors that I was lucky enough to meet before he passed away. And I'm going to put that statement in the chat. But what Amos Wilson taught me was the Black community has run the longest, most successful boycott in history. And that's the boycott against their own Black businesses and their own Black practitioners and our own investments. Why is that happening, and what are some solutions to that? That's on you, Bethel.
Why is that happening? I mean, you can point the finger directly at integration. You know, we was all together before integration because we had to be. We had a common enemy. We knew who they were. We knew what we was against. But once we were able to sit at the white man's table and eat their food, then we became comfortable, and our stuff was no longer good anymore. So we've had a history of since what 1964. Since 64, I would say since 64, and we had our businesses. Before then, we were together. But after 64, going 65, 66, 70, into the 70s, we no longer cared about doing business with one another. We were happy to be at the white man's table, content with that. And so what I'm seeing now is we're so far behind with one another when it comes to having an economic base that we're scrapping to catch up economically. And if you don't have an economic base, then you have no power in your own community or in your own state. You have no power, and that's what everyone else is doing. You look at the Hispanic community, you look at the Asian community, Indian community, and all these other communities that surround us that are practicing group economics on a regular basis, and we are happy to hand them our money. And we have to, and what we do to our own businesses is that we kill them by, if one black business mess up, then we blame all of them. We're done doing business with all of them. And that's something that we have to stop as a community. That's something that we have to, to get over. Now is not the time to continue to point fingers at our own businesses. Now is the time to find a way to make those businesses better. So now I actively look for black businesses to do business with in every area of my life. I don't care what it is. I'm looking for a black business in that space. Now, if I have an issue with a black business, I go to the owner of that business and I tell the owner, listen, the last time I was here or this time, listen, this wasn't good this time. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna come back in 6 months, or I'm gonna come back in 5 months or 3 months or whatever. This can't happen again. So when we do that, then you're not canceling the whole business, the whole business. You're giving them a chance to get it better because they don't have the same resources that these other white companies have access to. So we just have to have a level of understanding of what is needed for the entire community for us to be successful. And like I said, because we believe and fell for the trick that sitting at the white man table mean that we were completely equal to them, that was a mistake.
Great response. My article in Texas Metro News covers the fact that we need to do business with ourselves. I even gave the story of how many men I've talked to that went to a barbershop that was black owned, got their haircut messed up, and said, I'm never going back after the first visit. And they were shocked that I said, well, I went back 6 times till he got it right. And now he's my favorite barber. And I was looking at the mindset of where we separate ourselves from our own. So how do we, with knowing that there's an economic disparity, Bethel, how do we build wealth? What are our wealth building strategies? And especially during this time that we're getting the focus and the attention.
I think for us, like I said, Fish and I operate in a different space when it comes to investing and into money. What we're used to doing is listening to the typical financial rhetoric, and that's not where the game is really being played. That's where they want everybody to play because, if everybody's doing it, you got to step back and say, why is everybody here? I think we need to step back and really examine our financial habits as a community. I think we need to aggregate our funds to even create our own version of Greenwood, which was one of the 100 of successful black communities that ultimately ended up getting destroyed. But we have to aggregate our money, come together and do business with one another. I think that, to me, that's the main key. And for us investing, I believe in investing in one another and figuring out how to bring those businesses up from the bottom.
I appreciate that, sir. That's amazing. I'm not going to forget that. This is something that we all need to do. I'm going to roll this question over to our California. I'm going to pull Manny out of his stage. Manny, Black Lives Matter has been the basis. It's been the underlying thread in all of this. And so they've done a good job of making this happen and having people that ain't even of color putting Black Lives Matter signs on fences. How are they going to turn this emotional strategy into policy?
You know, I always tell young people at the end of the day, if you're mad at something in this country, you want to fix it. It comes down to turning that power into legislation. You know, you can do all the marches in the world, you can carry all the sounds in the world, but if you want to affect a change that lasts for decades and years, it has to be turned into legislation. So people have to turn that anger into legislation. That means voting. And unfortunately, you have to work within the system. We have a two-party system in this country, Democrat or Republican. You know, you can vote for the Green Party candidate all you want, especially at the presidential level. That doesn't affect anything. So basically what you have to do is figure out which of these two parties can get you closer to your goal. You know, you can vote for a third party candidate like Jill Stein, or if Bernie Sanders, if he runs a third party candidate, but that won't win. That won't help. And then you might end up empowering another candidate who won't get you anything. Like in the case of 4 years ago, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. I always tell people that Hillary she would have given you something, where Trump gave you 100% of nothing. And now math was not my strong point in college or high school, but you know, 100% of zero is still zero.
That's some good math. Hey, well, I'm gonna have another swig of my drink. I noticed it's just a happy hour and I'm the only one drinking. So I'm having a real issue with some of you people. I know y'all got a drink down there. Oh, there you go, Nikki. That's what I'm talking about.
I got some wine here.
I see. All right. So y'all act
Also,
like y'all
too,
you know the liquor stores have been closed down. We know y'all got some X drinks in there. Some of that. All right, go ahead, Manny.
I wanted to say I've been seeing some news that actually Black Lives Matter is actually translating some of that power into political action. I read an article just a few minutes ago about a Black Lives Matter candidate who was running for office, and I've talked to some local Black Lives Matter advocates that are trying to push things through the system. So I see that's beginning to happen, but my concern is that a lot of the young people are just frustrated or don't believe in the political system, and so they protest and they march, but then they don't go take it to the next level. And that means the next level is voting, and there's not just voting, but also following up with lobbying and pressuring politicians until they do what you want them to do.
I appreciate you responding to that. And we're going to circle back in a minute once we get through all our speakers, because Judd and I discussed that. But my biggest concern when it comes to Black Lives Matter is that when the mayor of D.C. built that street called Black Lives Matter, is one of the founders who said it wasn't necessary and tried to undermine the movement. But that was a street that was going straight to the White House. And I don't see how strategically that would have been an issue for one of the leaders and founders of Black Lives Matter. So we have to consciously look at where we're going with that. That being said, I'm going to circle around to Matt. Matt, you ready to come aboard? I have a question for you, sir. Are you there, Matt?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay, good.
And I want to thank you. I apologize. I thought it was 6 o'clock, not 5:30.
That's okay. Anytime you show up is on time, brother. You know, we are the kings of timing. Your timing is always perfect. It's never been imperfect.
Thank you.
So I appreciate that. So sorry about that. You got me caught up there. I got thrown off. So my question to you, Matt, is that it's almost similar to the question I'm going to have for Brother Gray. What next? Where are the economic and business development changes that we're going to put in place that tells us this is going to work for us?
That's a great question. Just like throughout our history, we have to go on underground. We can't, especially in the capitalistic society, where money is a main driver for change here. In terms of Blacks and economics and economic advocacy in this time, we're working hard, but it's not in the front lines. It's the work that the protesters are doing and celebrities and things of that nature is being shown on CNN. But the Dallas Black Chamber of Commerce, there are entities throughout the country who's trying to support regional banks supporting businesses. For example, the Dallas Black Chamber supported, I want to say $4.5 million of relief funding to businesses in the Dallas area, over 100 of them. But that's not being promoted. One, it doesn't need to be promoted. But two, the right people need to know what's going on, and that's people on this call. And that's why I want to bring it up. There are regional banks who are walking through small businesses of our chamber members or Black businesses in general to try to get relief funding. But we have to work together. We have to have a strategy. Our businesses have to have the tools, the equipment so that they can be loanable. So not only loanable to banks, but even Black investors like Fish and their private equity groups who still need to see 3 years of financials so that they can have their supporters who are pro-Black, who will support our Black economy, to not have a risky investment. And so what we're doing is advocating. What needs to be done even more is to rebuild our Black economic ecosystem. Integration did destroy that. And the main reason it was destroyed is because during integration, instead of us tearing down the walls and let the best business shine, which is an economic basis, racism provided the fact that white inferior businesses can even trump the Black businesses who were better than them at the time. A great industry is the barber and beauty shops because there were Black barbers who were servicing all people in America. And we did not capitalize in that industry because of racism, because we didn't want to have an economic ecosystem built. They purposely bankrupted A.G. Gaston, who funded the civil rights movement on things, because we understand, the country understands that a community, a culture, a society cannot thrive in a capitalistic space if you don't have money generation. And so we've seen 50 years of neglect, and now we're trying to fight, and we're anemic. I can't hear you. Terry, I'm sorry.
I muted myself out of respect for your wonderful voice, and I forgot to come back. I'm sorry. I've got some questions for you before I go to Ed. And amazing work, sir. Our community has fought for equal rights for generations now. And like you said, we're tired. and we have to support each other and strengthen each other to make the Black Lives, what the Black Lives Matter awareness has done, turn into, to capitalize on it. And how do you handle being on the board with the chamber, how do you handle the concept in the community where people who are not in the chamber say, well, how can they be advocates for all of us at large when the chamber only has chambers members?
That's a great question. And as a board member, and to be honest with you, a lifetimer of the Dallas Black Chamber, I was literally born into that organization. And so with that perspective, I have, there's a slight misperception of the Dallas Black Chamber in relation to other chambers of commerce. Typically, chambers of commerce do only support businesses that are paid members in there. But the Dallas Black Chamber is a bit different. The Dallas Black Chamber is a hybrid of a civil rights organization and a business organization to provide policy. It's a leadership pipeline. And the first thing we have to do is I have to be responsible to educate allies like yourselves in this movement to let y'all know what we do as a chamber. That's why Harrison Blair, as president, have been doing more and telling you all what we do. For years, we've hidden it. We felt like we wanted to do all of our work under the radar. Well, historically, we didn't do that. The Dallas Negro Chambers, being out front, helped change policy in the city of Dallas. Ed Gray have done research, and I'm pretty sure he can piggyback on that. But we were fearful because there's a strategy in business and white business areas that if there's a Black business organization that's trying to advocate Black businesses, we're going to create systems to disunify them or to create some type of stink. And we are constantly fighting that. And now we're in a point where people are understanding they need answers, and we have to come up to the plate. And so we're working harder than ever to not only educate so that our community can know, look, we're not just here for just businesses. We, first of all, care about Black people, and we care about Black economic ecosystems. Does that mean we're marching every day? No, but we're actively working to change policy. We're actively working to ensure that we can get economic opportunities, and we need to make sure that that space in the movement is as relevant as what's being seen on CNN and MSNBC.
Thank you, Brother Matt. You know how much I admire your work. It's not because you're an alpha. I ain't got nothing to do with it, brother. Just kidding. So I just wanted to say, and I want to circle back because we've got communicators here. We've got, you know, I'm blessed to live in the world of Nikki Mayo. I mean, she's put the message out there and it becomes global in minutes. And I'm going to go right back to you and say to you that it's not just a rumor, but it's a reality that non-members in the chamber are left out. And what you have said is amazing to show that you are a historical organization, that you're a civil rights and an economic parity organization, and that you want to bring in everybody into the field. So how can the communicators here and all the communicators online help you get that message out and topple that myth that you are just another separatist organization that's membership driven only?
Good. Thank you for that. And I'm still going to stick to my guns, because in order for any organization, whether you're a church, whether you're SCLC, whether you're the NAACP or the Urban League, there has, and again, we're in a capitalistic environment. And so the two arguments of one, chambers own black chambers, we'll be specific, in the Dallas Black Chamber. Dallas Black Chamber people only support chamber members. That has been specifically since the mid-1980s have been the mantra of the Dallas Black Chamber, the branding, that outside community people hear what our organization is. However, there are businesses that we don't promote that are not necessarily members who benefit from all the work we've done, regardless if you're a member or not. We are responsible for making sure that there are policies that MWBE practices are done. That doesn't just impact a chamber member. That impacts everyone, not only that are Black, that are minorities or disenfranchised. And so I'm gladly to talk to any communicator about the minor flaws that we have in our system. We do have those, but the bigger problem is we need to ensure that all of us get together and at least topple and create this system so that we can then be triumphant and then figure out that problem of ensuring that we include everyone in our organization.
Awesome words, man. I can see the clouds separating right now. The sunlight's coming through. So thank you very much. Power.
No problem. It's a hot day out there.
Yeah. Let me roll over to Ed. Ed, how do we handle the state of Black men in the media? How do we handle this? What's next? The protests and unrest is there. How do we mitigate the negativity toward Black men? And how do we create the mentoring process for the younger people? And I think it's cross-generational. There's some old folks that need to be mentored too. So what's next, Ed?
Thank you for inviting me on your show. And also, you have a 5-part question. I'm gonna try to remember some of that.
That's okay. I got it written down, brother.
let me go ahead and just stick with the what's next portion of it. And the reason why we're here, we have to examine that the what next. The reason why we got to this point was that it was a revenge for a Black president that got us here in the first point. And that's what ended up happening. So once we get beyond that, we realize because they couldn't get the Black man in the White House, any Black man would do, or for that matter, any Black woman would do as well, as Breonna Taylor. So when it comes to that, we're looking at the point of we have people at this point in juncture in society ready to listen to us. Now, as I said, when I was speaking at the Black Lives Matter March in Richardson, Texas, which was attended by mostly our white allies, our European American allies. And I call them European American allies because that's what they are. Whiteness in America is associated with power. I don't give anyone power. I talk about what they are. And what they are in this particular situation is the oppressive society that we have right now that's oppressing that's suppressing Black people as a whole is now coming under attack by the people that put the oppression on the first place. So we have a window of opportunity, and it's a slim window to change the narrative and to control the narrative. We had that window back in 1992. You remember that? When we had the Rodney King riots, and we had these same talks then. Of course, we didn't have Zoom calls at that time, but we had those same talks then about where we were going to go, how people were going to come together. And I recall that, and we celebrated that. And how did we celebrate that? We celebrated that by electing the first Black president Yeah, you remember that? It was Bill Clinton, right? Bill Clinton, the first black president, right? Who gave us the triangulation policy, also gave us the beginnings of mass incarceration. That is what got us through that window then. So now where are we at with this window where we're at today? We have to learn from our past, and that's what a historian does, and that's what my PhD is in history. And it's sort of like Smokey says, you know, historians are always bringing up old, well, I can't say the word because it's a Sunday. But what we're talking about as well is bringing it up, as Manny has stated. The first thing we need to do is legislate. We need to legislate. We need to legislate beyond the protests. See, in 1965, see, there we go again. 1965, we did the Selma. And once we got past Selma, we got the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And then shortly after that, we got the Open Housing Act of 1968, which was caused after Dr. King was assassinated. They signed that act. So now what we do and what we have to do now is we have to give these people something to think about. Right now, the Botham-Jean Act is being proposed by Representative Carl Sherman. He's going to propose that in the Texas House. That's what we need to do. We need to get our black media to get behind the legislators, and because the people are now on the scene. So that's one of the things we need to do. Economic boycott. Oh, I have a list of things. I know you only gave me 2 minutes, so I'm going to go through them real quickly. Economic boycott, go back again in history again. The Montgomery bus boycott, we gave black people an opportunity to get beyond the protests and get effective change. We have the 9th largest economy in the world. African Americans have the 9th largest economy in the world. We're not paupers by any chance. And people listen to us all around the world. And one of the reasons why they listen to us all around the world, you've seen because of the fact of who we are and what we've become. But as we get beyond that, we have to realize that civil rights, and we keep talking about civil rights. The media talks about civil rights. This is not a civil rights issue. This is a human rights issue. Civil rights was when we demanded to sit down at a 5 and dime and get a cup of coffee. Human rights is when they come and take a knee with us. So that is some of the things we need to do. Summing it up again, legislate past the protests, economic boycott, divest yourself from those people who don't subsidize your own oppression. You know, the people at the Chamber of Commerce would probably agree with me. You just said it took you 6 times to get a good haircut. I don't have that problem anymore. But what we need to go ahead and do is make sure that we control the narrative, and in controlling the narrative, that's where the black media comes in. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Hey, Ed, you could take it all the minutes you want, my brother. And that goes back to what you said, is that we need to control our narrative. We need to give our black media the power that they have. They tell our true stories. We have people like Brother Wright in the newsroom in mainstream media that make sure that there's a conversation safely being had so we can talk about this. And that being said, and this question is for you and also for John. Start with you. I'm big asked, what are you telling your children? If somebody asked me what I'm going to tell my son, my response to them was, I've been having a conversation with him since he was born. My grandmother had that conversation with me, and she also had her grandfather had it with her. It's not about our conversation. I turned around to my white counterpart and I said, what conversations are you having with your children and your colleagues and your family? And can I sit in? So right now, in our mainstream media has always got a black expert telling us what this problem is. Should we? And is it a value in having us ask white people what they're going to do? Because I think, is this their problem? Ed, John?
Well,
you first, Ed.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Let me go and say that my children are much older. And as a matter of fact, one of mine was marching with me in Richardson. And what I've always told her is that you are always at war. You know, I never think of any time that I'm not at war, you know, in this society. And that doesn't mean I'm going to beat somebody up. But that does mean that any given time I have to be reminded that I can be attacked. And to prove that, and I'm going to just say this, but all of these SMU degrees, I'm on Twitter. This is a shameless time for me to plug my Twitter, Grade 1906. There we go. So now, one of the things that we talked about on Twitter was Black at SMU. And see, we send our kids to school. This is you talking about what do you tell your kids? You send your kids to school to a predominantly white institution, and they go into school thinking that, hey, look, everything's going to be okay. Where everything is not going to be okay. You're going to be consistently attacked. You're not going to be well liked. You're there to assimilate, but you need to be there to graduate. That's the thing. You're there to assimilate, but you need to be there to graduate. So graduation, once you get out of school, what do you tell your kids? What do you tell ourselves? Is remember that at any given time you will be attacked. Be ready for the attack and be ready to pounce upon the attack, not in a defensive mechanism, but be able to move forward. I never go backwards. I always go forward.
Brother John, what kind of conversations do white people need to have, and how much responsibility do they need to take in this new normal?
Well, you know, it's white people do not generally, okay, many people, you know, there's diversity there, but generally they don't think about racism. They don't think about white supremacy. You know, it's often said that a chain has two ends, you know, and that the people on both ends are in chain. But the experience at one end is quite different than at the other. I try to get people to think about racism, white racism, in this way, that white racism is a curse on the people that it destroys institutionally and at the social level. And it's a curse on the people that are insulted and made to feel bad for no reason on the interpersonal level, the bigotry level. So at that end of the chain, you might ask a question something like, who put this curse on me and how can I throw off this oppression? All right, but I'm sitting at the other end of the chain as a white guy, and racism for the people who benefit from it, it's like a spell, like we're spellbound, we're under a spell. And we think that our good looks and skill got us everything that we have, you know? And so the question at that end of the chain is more like, how did I fall under this spell? And how can I free myself from this delusion? And so that's kind of a use. I mean, I've gotten some traction getting people to think about it that way. I think that the white fragility argument, you know, I can't stand those conversations where people just start crying and then you have to tie it off like a made-for-TV movie at the end of the session, you know. But I'll say this, one reason it's so hard, I think, for whites generally to get this, and also many whites act in bad faith when you have the conversation. They're not really trying to get to it. But, okay, I'm 68 years old. In 1970, when I was 18, my grandfather was 70. Okay, so he could have been a 10-year-old boy when the lynching by the downtown took, you know. And if you go back 70 more years, when his grandfather was born, you're before the Civil War. So it's not like it's just 3 generations, but it's so close, I think, that they just freak out. They see a group of whites laughing and passing out postcards of a man hanging from a tree that's set on fire, and they just shut down. It's too close. And they don't want to see in the aggregate the basis that their own prosperity and sense of well-being is built on. And so if you want to talk to them, you have to break that spell, because if you can't, you're not going to get through. And I find it hard. I mean, even people I know, I try to talk through it with them. But I worked as a medical librarian for years, and that's a pretty rare job. But to find a Black medical librarian is even rarer. And my coworker at Baylor, we'd be talking about these things a lot, and he'd say, look, John, it's not racism, not rocket science. And I thought he was going to say, look, it's really simple, and then break it down to me. He said, racism, not rocket science. It's a lot harder. And I think that it is. It's so, well, just taking just the thing from pre-Civil War, the birth of my grandfather, to 1970 when I graduated from high school. It just, they don't see it. And they don't see their own liberation connected with the liberation of their Black neighbors. They don't see that the people who really run the country like it when the people who don't own anything are fighting over, their own bigotry, and can't unite. But
John, thank you for that, and I want to also give you an extra thank for being the white person we bother in the room. Now you know how we feel when you ask us all those questions. You're the only white boy here. So I'm just kidding.
No, but I mean, I struggle with these things every day.
Well, John and I had worked together with his wife's Texas Tenant Union, so we struggle with struggle every day. So, and it's a burden that each one of us have a cross to carry, no matter what race we are. Someone even questioned me, why would I bring in a Hispanic and a white for this dialogue on Black males in the media? Because we're not monolithic. We're not islands. We are collectively together, and until we create a collective change, it won't happen. And I'm not an integrationist. I grew up in a segregated world. I grew up where I paid for the movie ticket outside and went up on the ledge to go see the movie. And sometimes the white folks didn't come. And I was angry, but my grandmother grabbed my hand and says, don't worry about it. Let's walk back home. And I grew up where an uncle was lynched. And now I live in this world. And John, you and I shared that. You want to expand on that for me, is that what are the millennials and the Generation Xers have put this to the forefront, and how did they get this level of power? How did this happen? You shared that with me the other day. You share it again, please.
I'm not, we talked about a lot of things, but I think that a lot of the millennial whites, or whites between age, say 20 and 35, would that be millennials? Their economic prospects now are really bad. I mean, people who graduated, even college graduates, which is not the majority, but they graduated in 2008 right into the recession, and then the cohort right behind them is graduating into the recession caused by the pandemic. And then the world right now seems tipped over, because of the pandemic, a lot of anxiety. And I think that the younger whites that I've met in the marches, and not just now, but in the past couple of years, they really are searching for a sense of purpose in life. I mean, they see, everybody likes nice things, but they see that just buying things is not the purpose of life. And they don't want to be identified with Officer Derek Chauvin. They want to be identified with George Floyd. They want to be involved in something positive and liberatory. And you all have interacted, and there's no Black professionals that haven't interacted with white people and know how really weird it can be. Many hangups, even if you have a white person for a friend, say dumbass things and so forth, and make everybody uncomfortable. But those kids, and I count myself among them, even though I'm really pushing 70, we're here, and we don't want to live in an unjust system. We don't want to be associated with it. And the trick is to recognize how you're benefiting from it and go after it, like they say, not just to be non-racist, but to be actively anti-racist. And you're going to find a lot of these kids, especially the ones that are getting tear gassed, are going to come out stronger and more, be a better person to be a coalition with.
You guys have made this happy hour one of the better happy hours we ever have. And there's a whole lot of great comments and a great system. And I can see your private messages too, okay? But there's a lot of great comments in there, so please download that. And I think we should share that. But John is right. The other thing John and I shared was, and I talked to Ed about it, Brother Gray, is that the the coronavirus pandemic set us at home. And so the people who would ignore this, I call it the good white people, the people who would ignore this were not at work. The young people who didn't have the history we had were upset. And this spread like wildfire because we were all sitting at home looking at it. And shelter in place drove this chain to the point where we are. But it will go away if we don't choose to do anything about it. John, I thank you for your answers. I thank you for your comments, Matt. I thank you, Brother Gray, for yours. Larry, everybody. It's Stephen, awesome. Manny, it is important that we do take this doorway and turn it into a highway and build an infrastructure at the end. We can't stop this process. And so I have a couple of questions. I'm going to close our happy hour. We expected to go beyond the hour, but it's been great. And it's good to see that I'm not the only one drinking. Thank you, Nikki. So this is a happy hour. I don't know what's up with you people. I know y'all drinking because I've seen you in the bars when they were open. So I am blessed to live in your lifetime, and as a representative of NABJ, as a member of DFW ABJ, as a founder of BPRS, Black Public Relations Society, as an entrepreneur, and as an employee for a corporation that has been giving money away to small business owners this week. I am just blessed that I have these people. You guys are here, and you represent my stories. You represent my path, and I don't have to make you guys up. So 2 things I wanted housekeeping. I met with a group that led by Eddie Reeves, and there's like 14 to 25 Black men that want to invest, angel investors. I am trying to develop the North Texas Economic Green Book, which will include the Black press. It would include advertising with the Black press. It would include membership increasement with the chamber. And I'm not an enemy of the chamber, so don't think that my questions were hard because I just became a member just now as he was talking. Got that, Matt? Now give me my money back when I see you. So I think we do need to make it accountable, but we need to be broad. Our communicators in this room are there. It is up to us to do this. I'm going to ask one more question, and we're going to close, but I'd like to give recognition to an award-winning journalist, a publisher, a mentor, a strong voice in the community, and I call her one of our, like I call all of you a mover and shaker, and I would like for her to just give us a greeting. Would y'all just welcome our Cheryl Smith. She serves on the National Association Board, National Association of Black Journalists with me. She's the secretary and the media-related board rep. Cheryl, could you just give us your greetings? I'm doing my applause right now.
Hello to everyone, and thank you for being here. And I've enjoyed listening to the comments from everyone. And we need to not wait until it's over, but during this pandemic, because there's always a pandemic in our community, we have to be strong on collaboration. We have to build together. We can't do everything. And I just said, let's just continue to collaborate. And usually when something happens, when our community is being hurt, we turn on one another because we can't get to those who are really causing us pain or have their knee on our neck. And I'm just saying, it's just time out for that. Let's just find a way to, like when Terry talked about going to Black-owned businesses, I feel the pressure when I have one typo in my paper, and Lord knows I've seen column length apologies and retractions in publications that have budgets that have 8 zeros more than I had in my bank account. And so let's just collaborate more, and let's just keep these discussions going and move them to action.
That's great, Cheryl. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate your presence here. Thank you for coming in.
No, thank you. Thank you, Terry.
And Cheryl's one of my heroes. I try to pay respect to gender. There are some people say, why are you calling them heroes? We just as good as y'all. We could be a hero. But that's my thoughts, okay?
We ain't got time for that fight. You really don't have time for that fight.
Well, you know, all those gender warriors come at me sometimes. And I just want to say we are collectively very powerful, but we're not alone. So that's why we have to make that connectivity and make it happen. We need to be making sure that every entity here John, could you put in the chat your website for the police organization? I didn't put it in there, and I'm sorry. But download this chat. Stay in touch with all of us. I'm putting my email in there because it's going to be crucially important that I get your personal feedback on those of you who've been in all of the happy hours and even this one as to what we can do and where we're doing it. I'm reaching out to all of you to help me complete this North Texas Economic Green Book, because it's going to be crucial, because we sitting at home and we spending a lot less money. I got more cha-ching in my bank than I did if I was out there traveling around, and I purposely went out to Black-owned businesses and bought stuff. And so we need to develop that Economic Green Book. And Nikki, did you put your email in there? You need to follow Nikki on her pages, or put your Twitter and stuff in there, because her stories and being a multimedia entrepreneur, there's some messages that we can help build. We have to build these messages. Everyone, the majority of you are business owners, you're entrepreneurs. Let's keep this going and let's make this happen. This is my, I put together 8 series, happy hour. And I said, this is going to be the final one. And then I got 67 emails saying, don't do that. So we're going to continue. And we're going to continue this message. But I want to thank you guys all for being here. And if there are any questions, you can unmute yourselves and go. But I do want to, hey, Larry, could you put the name of your organization in the chat as well? Black Sports Professional Network. All right, so don't forget to hit that. Now, Tony is our LinkedIn profile. He put the LinkedIn profile. Please hit that LinkedIn profile today and join that group. All right, so is there any, I'm gonna go in the same order we came. If you can give us 30 seconds to close as to what next. I'm gonna deal with Brother Gray's big statement when I asked him, what question do you want to ask him? He said, what next? I had to call him, I didn't understand. So Brother Gary, give a close out. Let's start with you, and we'll go to all the other speakers. What's next?
Just summing it up, be powerful and hopeful at the same time. And recall what I said earlier, we have a limited window of opportunity to make a change. And this time we need to get it right. We had a limited opportunity back in '92, saw where it got us. We don't have that many more limited opportunities. Thank you again for having me on this Zoom call with you.
Thank you for being here. Brother Stephen?
We have a huge moment ahead of us. We're all ready for it. We all need to get ready for it. We have great leadership, Black leadership. We need to stick together and make it happen.
I appreciate that. And my favorite brother, and he's one of us, I'm sorry. John? What's next?
First, it was great to be with y'all today, and I learned a lot. As far as what next goes, the main thing I would like to see is us sustain the movement, like Ed is saying, and not just have a wave of passionate mobilization and then silence. And then the other is to not accept phony well wishes from the police departments of America as change. It's the Buffalo cops that knocked down that old man and let him bleed out while they marched by. The night before, the guy that hit him was kneeling with protesters in solidarity. So
wow,
it's I just wouldn't let them off the hook with well wishes. We need some definite policies to prevent the next shooting. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it so much.
Larry. Thank you, John.
Larry. Before we, reach out, we need to control our own narrative. I think people have said that on this call. This goes back to anything we put out there, because some of our social media posts are used for entertainment fodder in other communities. So I don't care if it's TikTok. We're tired of making World Star the #1 viewing habits. We're not making World Star popular. It's, John or cousins are out there making it popular. So the images we put out to the public are the images that we need to control, and we need to show more fathers, business, everything we talked about positive. So we need to make sure failure to plan is planning to fail. So if we want the desired outcomes, we need to have a strategic plan on these are the positions we want. This is the ownership we want. This is the financial capital investments we need. This is what we should teach our youth, so they understand that the image they put out, beating each other up at school and posting it is not a positive thing.
I appreciate that, Matt.
Yes, conversations like this, letting us know where in the movement people are, and respecting and being their allies. We can't be everything to everyone in order to be successful. So, Black journalists, you all have been amazing. We have to support you more. Black entrepreneurs, do your thing. We as a community need to support you. Black advocacy organizations, the Chamber of Commerce. I shouldn't be meddling with trying to create things that's not in our wheelhouse. We want to create economic policies. We need to stay there throughout the duration of this, so that once this movement is finished, all of us can be at the finish line, so that we can be potent and we can make this a better society. But in order to do that, we have to have relationships with each other. We have to trust one another, and we have to make sure we're a lockstep with our own specific, unique characteristic in this bigger movement, which is making humanity better.
Thank you, Matt. Kevin.
I just want to say it was a great conversation. I'm going to piggyback off of Cheryl. I think it's just time to take massive action. I think we've done an incredible job of talking year after year after year, decade after decade. Now we have an opportunity to jump in here and take this massive action. I think this is just one of many steps. So thanks, Terry, for allowing me to be a part of it.
Thank you, brother. I'm just a fly on the wall. Brother Christopher.
For me, when it comes to economics, we have to make it more a lifestyle and not just about being reactive to what's going on in the world. So supporting Black businesses have to be a part of our lifestyle. It has to be a must. Secondly, we have to destroy the myth within our youth that they can't handle math. Anything when it comes in finance or any of these engineering or anything of those natures, those big paying jobs, everything has to deal with math, especially when it comes with numbers and economics. And if we continue to build on the fear of math, that's going to hurt our community even more. So those are things that we got to look at. Thirdly, for your personal finances, if you're believing the masses of how to normally do things, then you're probably getting stuck into a terrible financial strategy, because the mass strategy is typically a myth or something that's used to keep you within a box that's hiding where the real money is at. So those are my three things.
Appreciate that. Bethel.
I would say conscious collaboration. Like, make sure that you're very intensive about, collaborating with one another, doing things, supporting one another, supporting our businesses, to build our economic base so that we can be competitive. And don't be afraid to reach out for resources if you need them. Things and with someone that look like you, if you can do it. And like I said, we have to have authentic action moving forward. We've talked long enough. That's why we end up in the same position every time something happens. And so I'm with Cheryl on that, just to make sure that we have authentic action going forward, so that we can so we don't have to arrive at the same point every time something like this happens. So I just say support one another, have conscious collaboration, and authentic action.
I thank you, guys. Did I get everybody? Let's see. I did cover all the speakers. Good. Let me say this to you guys. Thank you for being here. And I asked everyone to put their websites and their Twitter handle. I need you to tweet right now using the hashtag #InspireBlackMen or whatever takeaway you pull from this, so I can go back and see how we trended. Yeah, because I'm about measurement and impact too. We got to keep it real. And you're going to download that up there. And I want you to understand that I don't hide information. Transparency is my middle name. So as you connect and you connect around us, through us, and around us, make sure we stay reconnected to who we are. Doesn't make sense that I discover something you're doing with someone else and both of you didn't share it with the source that brought you together. That creates so much negativity. So let's stay connected. There's so much wealth, and we're powerful together. And I want to thank my journalist family, my PR family, my entrepreneur family, and I saw Nikki saying we're having an Alpha convention up in here. But I want to thank my Alpha brothers. So I do appreciate y'all stepping up. I am proud to live in everyone's lifetime. Thank you, Cheryl Smith, for that paper that comes out every morning at 8 o'clock so I can catch the news and know that that's going to be the truth. Thank you, Stephen, for walking into that newsroom and making sure that we have fair and balanced conversations and that the other people take a look at themselves. And thank you for raising those wonderful 3 sons that you have. And I love your posts on social media when you have that right initiative. You know, this is the right moment, the right time, this is the right food. I love that WRIGHT. So one thing I want to really ask all of you to help me with is that there's a belief system when I talk to a lot of the business owners out there, Black. I mean, I'm talking about people that got millions of dollars. They say, oh, we'll never get reparations. I said, yes, we can. I said, but we have to talk in terms of reparative concessions because wealth building is crucial. And at this time, we are now can make people feel accountable to that. One of the key factors is when I heard about a school district that set aside money for people of color, a person who was conscious went in there and changed it to Black children. And then they changed the requirements that you have 90% of your contracts have to go to a Black firm. And that's a multi-million-dollar contract. So that's reparative concessions. But if we're not at the table, removing that multicultural word and putting in the Black word only, we're not going to move forward. Our media entities that are private and independent, like Publisher Smith and Expert Mayo, we need to make sure that those contracts, when someone says, I need to communicate, I need this, we need to send those contracts there. That's our power. You know, Jasmine is an expert at building virtual conferences. And now that we're not meeting, okay, she's putting my virtual cookout together. So let's do this business with each other. We went to our hour and a half. I appreciate it. You guys hashtag. This is recorded. It will be shared with each of you. It won't be shared publicly, but you'll all have it. John, thank you for being here as well and offering an alternative message for us. And I'll see you in the trenches because we got some fighting to do. And I just want to give a shout out to my media partners. Maria, I saw what you did last week. Congratulations. Jasmine, thank you. Sharna, Loris, CW, and Jade. And of course, I couldn't do this without Tony. He keeps me calm because I'm panicking like 35 minutes before. Now you can talk to Cheryl. She knows I panic anyway. We can say we getting on the elevator. I panic before the button comes open. That's just me. Once I'm on the elevator, I'm cool. But just before, I go crazy. So I don't want to keep you guys any longer before I get emotional. Thank you for this. Please send me an email. Give me feedback that I can share with others. And one last thing. This is new, but I've been working on it. I'm developing a master class in Black wealth, Black publishing, and Black media. And each one of you can present that master class. This is a paid gig. This is a sponsored gig. So I'm want to know if you want to be a part of that broadcast because we're going to create a master class. So let's inspire each other and let's continue to inspire Black men because we're the first ones they want to take down. And that's nothing against my sisters because of what I always say, a Black man raises a son, but a Black woman raises a nation. And I'll never back off that. But let's stop them from taking the matriarchal figures in our culture and wiping us out. Thank you, guys. I'm blessed. Amen. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for the drinks, Nikki.
Thank you.
Thanks again, everybody.
Hey Terry, I'm gonna let you have that alpha reference you keep throwing out.
All right, I know you're an Omega brother.
I'm just saying. I'm gonna let you have it right now because it's your microphone.
Hey, let me just say this. My Omega
like everyone introduced themselves with
first got out of surgery. He was the first man in my door with pajamas and a cane so I could walk to the door. That's my Omega brother right there. We've been together at FedEx for 9 years. It's not. It's all Greek to me, Kevin. It's all.
That's right. We're gonna do it.
Bye, y'all.
smaller.
I see you laughing, Cheryl.